So hey guys, today we are going to talk about the 2014 versus 2024 class changes and see which one I prefer. So for the record, we are not going to talk about the artificer unfortunately because it is a Tasha class and we are going to talk about the base class only. So instead we're going to start with the barbarian, and for the barbarian I'm going to rank it for 2024. So a couple of changes to highlight. It has a short rest recharge of range, a longer duration, easier to maintain principles and rules. I think a lot of their features are updated, like danger sense is better, reckless attack is not just for melee, and they have a lot of interesting changes, but mostly it is about brutal strike. Instead of just adding critical die, it allows you to do something more interesting and more control effects. So overall, I believe the Barbarian has a good direction, a lot more reliable, a lot stronger, while retaining its character and its flavor. So I do like the changes in 2024. So next up is the Bard. And for the Bard, I think I will stay with the 2014 version. Although the 2024 one is quite interesting, I just feel like it is overcompensating. So what do I mean? Now, first of all, they have less weapon proficiency, which is fine, it's cool. And the new prepare spell is just a flavor change. Expertise changes level, no Song of Rest, which is just okay. And now counter charm at 2024 is actually usable, but I don't think it is that much of a big deal. And looking at the magical secret, which is their biggest ability, is the reason why I put it back into 2014. So instead of taking some spells from different class lists for different levels, they are getting all the spell changes starting level 10. So I believe that is just too much of a compensation. Not saying that it's not strong, it definitely is now one of the strongest abilities in the game. I just feel like this is not the way a bard should be changed, and the flavor is kind of just not developed more, while overcompensating with their magical abilities. And for the capsule, having some interesting use of power word heal or kill is fine. But again, I feel like the words of creation is a good flavor. It's just not really the way I envision it to be changed. Again, the changes here are fine. They are strictly strong. It's just not how I envision a bard to be characterized, and you will see a lot of these problems later on in the list. So next up is the cleric. And for the cleric, I will also go for the 2014 version rather than 2024. Now, I would say that I love the change in divine intervention at level 10. I feel like back then the 10% chance of getting your wish come true is really, how to say, it's not really bad, but it is just too situational. But now instead you get some improved spell casting usage, like a mini version of Wish. So it is pretty good. But I do think like overall it's not getting a lot of changes. Maybe like uh, Syrian Dad is kind of nerfed, and the Blasted Strike features is okay, it's good. Not that much changes. My biggest problem again is the forcefulness to just put all the class subclass abilities starting at level 3. And for a cleric, it just doesn't make sense to me that your religion and your belief comes on so late. And mechanically, I would say a cleric for me is really good when you're using it as a 1 level dip. So that is not existent anymore. And for that reason, I would also consider the cleric to be a bit more usable and flavorful back when in 2014. I'm looking for some better changes here. Now for the druid, my favorite class. I do like all the changes, so I'm gonna put it in 2024. And I think the changes here really fix some of the play style of a druid. Back then, it was really restrictive to how you use wild shape, and I feel that wild shape is just a underdeveloped feature for as cool as its flavor is. Now you can pretty much scale your wild shape with temporary hit points. You get some changes with usage. For example, you can expand spell list to wild shape, or you can expand wild shape to do spells. Kind of like sorcery points back then. And I just feel like they develop really well how the druid play. Either you want to be more of a caster or a shapeshifter, it is of your expands. And I actually do like how Archery is nerfed. Unlimited wild shape is kind of too strong, even for a level 20 character. I understand, okay, this is level 20, but again, forcing you to basically use your wild shape optimally is kind of boring. So I don't really like how this feature does for the characters of a druid, which is ironic because my channel name is a druid, but still, I think overall now druid has more options and players will be willing to try different play styles for a druid rather than sticking with one or two ways to so-called playing the class right. So next up is fighter. Fighter is pretty much the least changes received among all the classes, but I will put it in 2024. I think they did some interesting stuff here. For example, tactical mind, tactical shift, and indomitable is actually improved, having the ability to reroll with some advantage involved, and having like studied attack, tactical master, make me feel like fighter really is the master of fighting and just being really good with their weaponry. So I like how they try to dwell more into the aspects of a fighter, and I appreciate that. So next up is for the monk, and monk is no contest. This is the easiest shift to 2024. So monk kind of sucks back then, and a lot of the features is just flavor or doesn't really get much use. But now you get more weapons, martial art is better, you get a lot of improved features like patience, defense, and step of the wind is useful. And there are stuff like quickened healing and stunning strike is improved. And you can also use flavor of blows in an improved way. There is something like self-restoration, stillness of mind is replaced with somewhat of an improvement. And I just think overall the class is not only more viable in combat, you are also actually feeling more like a monk who master their martial arts and can kind of do some crazy things because of it. So I like how they kind of maintain the gimmick of a monk with improved features. Now for the paladin. Paladin, I have to say 2014 is better. So 2024 again strictly improves some of the features, but I just feel like they make too many things into spells, which is not a good thing. So for 2024, they do have a bonus action lay on hands and more fighting style. But now Divine Smite is a spell, so it means that it can be like countered or nullified. I don't really like that. I don't care about the Steed being a free cast. I think it's just okay. And the other features are pretty much just touch up or touch down. Like restoring touch is fine, but cleansing touch has a higher ceiling and no hard rules to cap how much it can does. But overall, I just feel like Paladin is fine as it is. If they're trying to improve and make a new version, they have to try something else. I don't really think any of the changes in 2024 matter that much. For Ranger, we go straight into 2014. And this is not for just Player's Handbook, but because of what Tasha's did with the 2014 Ranger, that gives it all the things I want in a Ranger already. Like having your own summon, having improved feature with hiding, movement speed, and nature-related gimmicks is all that I ask for. For 2024, instead, they are dwelling on into the Hunter's Mark feature, which I don't understand why you will restrict your players to use that spell as prominently as you are marketing it to be. So I don't really like the changes involved. I just think 214 is good enough with the Tasha touch-up. Now for the Rogue. The Rogue has to go to 2024 in my opinion. I just feel like 2014 Rogue is one of the worst class, if not the worst class in the game, unfortunately. And I just think having sneak attack doing more damages is kind of one noted. So in contrast, in 2024, you get to use your sneak attack with something different. For example, you can do some damage, you can do some control, you can do some interesting utility, and you also have some buff in features like Slippery Mind, and you have reliable talents at level 7, which is much earlier. So it's not that much of a change for a rogue, but you get more versatility in combat now, and not really getting any nerf, while maintaining your character and your features. So I like the rogue in 2024. Now for the sorcerer. it goes straight into 2024. And I have to say, the sorcerer is the best improvement for a 2024 class. And the reason for this is because the 2024 touch-up really gets what the sorcerer was lacking and pretty much gives it everything it needs to be not only viable, but arguably one of the strongest class in the game. For example, you get to use an improved sorcerer feature starting at level 1. Innate sorcerer giving more DC and advantage in attack rolls is really good. I read some of the meta magic, and for example, careful spell now being able to make damages 0 as well. Half damage becomes nothing. Extended meta magic being able to basically improve your concentration protection. And even for the more controversial twin spell, which instead of twinning a spell that cannot be upcasted, or not necessarily not upcasted, just for example levitate, you can twin it to target 2 enemies. Instead, now you can use, for example, banishment and spend 1 sorcery points to upcast the spell. And I actually think this is much better. It is a lot more friendly for the features. It is a lot more economically efficient. And I can use this a lot more times per day. So I like how the sorcerer is directed. Kind of like a genius in spell casting. And having these meta magic actually live up to its name. I like how they play with the sorcerer. Not to mention, like sorcerer's restoration, having short rest resources back, having better features at lower level. I just really like how you have more meta magic options as well, and of course more spells known, which is now technically called spell prepare, but it's the same thing. But you get more spells to use, and So this is just a straight improvement in the right direction. So next up, we are looking at the warlock. And again, for the warlock, I'm putting it in 2024. The warlock is really good in 2024. And you can check this out in other channels as well. Lots of people have appreciated the changes in warlock, but basically there are a couple of key points. You can now use like agonizing blast with your favorite cantrip instead of eldritch blast. Although I will still say like eldritch blast is the best option there is. You get a lot more invocations and you're not bounded by your pact boon. Instead, you can basically take all packs you want and kind of customize your character further. And your spell casting is also better with how you can move your level 20 ability down to lower levels to restore some of your spell slots to cast more spells per day. And although you do not get a better scaling with the spell slot restoration, I still wish tier 2 have more spell slots, but the other features together is cool. Of course, you get the ability to contact your patron, which is more utility flavor, but it is really cool. The only thing I'm not completely happy with, as if with the sorcerer as well, is that you have to have your subclass features at level 3, which again, I just doesn't get how for a sorcerer you have to awaken your powers at level 3, which is, I guess, fine. But for your warlock, you suddenly remember that you have a patron at level 3, which is kind of ridiculous, but it's fine. Overall, the class has a strict improvement and retain its value. So finally, for the wizard, and I would say the wizard goes to 2014 because the wizard in 2014 is already super strong. Like for 2024, you do get some like scholar, you get skill expertise, you have the ability to memorize spells, and you get kind of a nerf in spell mastery, restricting your action restriction. Like you cannot use Misty Step or Shield, but you can use an action to do spell mastery, which is, I guess, not that big of a nerf at this level, but it is still kind of weird. And you do get epic boon like all the other ones, but I just feel like you don't really have to care for any of the changes for a wizard, given how strong it already was in 2014. And for the problems of the wizard in 2024, this hinges more towards the subclasses, so I'm not going to talk about them here. But what I'm saying is the wizard is good enough in 2014. The changes in 2024 is not really the ones I care about. And I wish they can focus a little bit more towards the identity of studying, instead of just being a flavorful spellcaster with the most spell casting per day because of arcane recovery. I wish there's a bit more of a studying aspect to be focused, aside from just giving you expertise. I feel like there's a lot more they can do here, similar to how the sorcerer built its identity as such a powerful magic user as a prodigy. So this is my list. Overall, I have to say 2024 does do a lot of things justice. Lots of the changes makes me actually want to try the new class. And I just want to say they're not at all backward compatible because of how the subclass scaling works and how some of the features are completely redone and sometimes not to a better direction. But I am pretty neutral and fair when it comes to the changes. I think some of these are necessary, as 2014 can be starting to get dated comparing to some of the opinions shared online. But I do believe this is a good direction, and I am looking forward to some of the new comments, some of the new suggestions, some of the new fine tuning for the overall evolution of Dungeons and Dragons. So thank you for listening to my, I don't know how many minutes of rant. I feel like this is a video where I get my points through and really have the time and efforts to dissect what I like and dislike about each class. This will inspire me more to do videos in the future related to class mechanics and flavor specifications. So you can look forward to that. But anyway, thank you for listening today. And this is Druid signing out.